me was Kiss. She got Destroyer when I was probably in the first grade.
Wow.
I was probably like six or seven. And she was 10 years older than me, so she was a teenager when this record came out. It was probably around 76 or something. And I remember her. She played God of Thunder.
There you go.
It had those little demon voices at the front. I didn't know it was little kids back then, but
yeah.
It scared me to death. I like ran out of the room, and I was like, "What is that? I got to go back in there." And I went back in, and I mean, we memorized that record, man. Detroit Rock City, Shout Out Loud. I mean, all those records. And then I started getting into Hotter Than Hell, and I went back to the originals, the first three originals, and then Kiss Alive came out, and I thought I was freaking in the concert, man. I was on my bed doing a drum solo in 100,000 Years, and I mean, I thought I was going to be Peter Criss forever. I just loved it. That record, that Alive, probably is one of the biggest ones. Nothing to Lose. I used to love that song. All of them were good back then. I got into Kiss big time.
Oh yeah.
And it was crazy. It was crazy because I couldn't join the Kiss Army. My parents wouldn't let me join it. And I lived way out in the woods, way out in the sticks. And my cousin and I, he was about a couple of years older than me. We loved Kiss. And there was one other dude that lived about a quarter mile away from us on this gravel road. His mom let him join the Kiss Army. And we would just freak out, man. He would call us and tell us that he got pamphlets, and we would just go and just lay on the floor and turn our records on and look at, it was belt buckles and T-shirts and comic books and just all kind of stuff that would come to his house, man. We just couldn't believe it,
Wow.
And it was just, they were probably the biggest influence on me rock-wise at the very beginning when I was just a little kid, And then as we got older, I was influenced by a lot of other things. Keith and them, when I met them, that was a joke I was going to tell you a minute ago. I showed up over to meet them to kind of audition, I guess. Patrick had seen me at a mall and came up to me, and I was kind of singing with a little neighborhood band. We had entered a band competition at school, and he came up and he said, "Hey, man, looking for a singer. You want to come over and try out, at the band?" And I just thought they were so cool. They were older than me. I thought they were like professional, back then. I didn't know anything about them or anything, but I knew that they had been playing and stuff, and were kind of seasoned,
Yeah.
And so I went over there. I took my acoustic, and I kind of walked in and was doing like a little singer-songwriter kind of thing. I started playing the Eagles, like Desperado, and some Journey or something, I think. And they said, "Man, that's cool." But they go, "Man, you know any Cheap Trick or Aerosmith? You know Rush? You know any of that stuff?" And they just started pushing me right away. And I said, "Well, man, yeah, no, I don't know if I can get through it, but let's run it, one time, and I'll see." And so immediately, the very first day I met them, we just clicked. Everybody, we laughed, we talked. They threw, toys in the attic at me. They played 2112 by Rush. They did I Want You to Want Me. They did Can't Get Enough of Your Love.
All the classics, all the classics,
Yeah, all the classics. And we did a couple of Bad Company songs. We did Zeppelin. I mean, it was just, we had so much fun. And from that minute on, we just kind of took off, man. We just kind of, learned a handful of cover songs, and then we just started writing our own stuff right away, because we were kind of like, man, we're kind of butchering some of these songs. Why don't we just write our own stuff, Just kind of try to do that. And that's what kind of led us to, doing the EP, and we won some studio time, so we got in and recorded at a real studio, and, it was such a learning experience, man. It was kind of like being in a movie, honestly, man. It was just, how things were happening was just so weird. Keith and I, my mom was a real estate agent, and we used to cut grass for the properties she had. Keith had a pickup, and we threw a couple of lawnmowers in there and go, and that was how we were kind of earning a little bit of money. And I remember he and I riding around just going, man, wouldn't it be crazy if we got to go in the studio and record, and we did something, and people started listening to it, and, just dreaming, man, just big blue sky, and man, all that stuff started happening, and we couldn't believe it. We were like, oh my God, this is incredible, this is insane. So we never took it for granted, though. We just kind of went, we had a great time, we partied. We knew that it could probably go away at any second, so we just said, man, let's just make the most of the time we have together. But we just kind of started thinking about that. For this record, we started thinking about, we were so influenced by all the blues people and the the experiences that we had down on Bill Street, we kind of took the blues stuff and took it a different direction, you know.
Yeah.
When I met Keith and them at that rehearsal, they were real into like Iron Maiden. They loved the Iron Maiden, the double guitars, and and Judas Priest. They were into some real heavy stuff, and I was real different. I was kind of coming from like a bluesy kind of pop thing almost, I guess. I don't know, but it was different than them. So I think that's why we clicked. And we took that, and then we just kind of mushed all that stuff together to kind of come up with the way that we sounded, you know. But it is definitely a sound. The four of us, when we're together, that's the sound. That's the TORA thing.
That's how TORA was born, I guess. Yeah. I first heard of TORA on MTV, of course, back then. Walking Shoes, you know. How did you feel when you first saw TORA on MTV? How did you feel?
Man, we couldn't believe it. We watched Headbangers Ball every week. We were like super fans. We loved it.
Yeah.
And then when our video went on there, we couldn't believe it. I mean, it was the most surreal experience. And then we actually went and got on the show, the Headbangers Ball, and it was, we were sitting across from Adam Curry the first time, and then we saw Ricky Rockman the second time we were there. But I think we went a couple of times. We went and hosted. They used to have a thing called the Hard 60, and we went and hosted that.
Yeah.
And we couldn't believe it because we were watching it in the afternoons, you know. And we would say, we just watched this, and now we're sitting here where those people are sitting, you know. And it was just such a wild experience. It felt like a dream, you know. You're sitting there looking, and I was kind of looking at Adam Curry, just going, wow, look at this dude's hair. What in the world is going on? You know, I mean, you're just like going, I can't believe I'm sitting across from this dude.
Wow.
But they were really cool. They were just, you know, super down to earth. They knew that we were kind of green and new and trying to figure it out. And so they were really nice to us when they were talking to us and stuff. And we just had a great experience, man. The Bastards of Bill thing was kind of just dedicated to, you know, to that. We kind of took the blues thing and the rock thing that we had been influenced by and kind of melded all that together. And we just felt like it was a good title for the record. We had thrown around a couple of things, and that one just kept coming up. We just kept saying, man, that one just feels right, man. We are kind of Bastards of Bill. We kind of just do our blues thingy, but it's kind of rock too, and we have influences. We listen to all different genres of music and styles and everything, and we just said we feel like that's a good fit. And mostly it was dedicated to all the people that supported us, man. Every song on that record was inspired by all those experiences, man. That first song, Sons of Zebedee, was about our audience, man. It was just about people getting together and not judging each other. You could do anything you wanted to. You know, we had a rehearsal place down in Memphis, a warehouse, and we used to throw these parties in it. Our guitar player's dad owned a glue factory, and he stored some 55-gallon drums, empty drums in this warehouse, and we asked him if we could rehearse in there. And so the first thing we did when we moved in there is we pushed all those barrels to one end of the building. It was about 100 feet long warehouse or something, and we stuffed all those things down there and put some plywood on it, built a stage, and put a PA up, and man, we started hanging carpet on the wall. We hung some black trash bags all over the wall and off the stage, and the next thing we knew, we had a venue. And so we would throw these parties, man, and people would come from all over the place. That DJ would plug us on the radio. He'd go to the warehouse. I mean, he was doing advertising and everything for us. And people would come, and what we did is we hired a couple of football players from Ole Miss, from down in Oxford. They would come and be security at the door. So anybody that got too out of it or got in a fight, you know, there was a lot of turf things back in when you were young. You know, those different high schools with somebody look at somebody's girlfriend the wrong way or say something they didn't like, and the next thing they'd be tangled up. And so we had those guys, they would just grab them. There was a big old sand pit out the side of that building. They just pick them up and toss them out the side. We just say, make sure they don't, you know, hurt each other too bad, but don't let them be in here where all the people are having a good time. And so, man, we charged at the door. People came in. They could bring anything they wanted to. You could do anything you wanted to in the building. They'd bring lawn chairs, coolers. They were drinking. We set up sand tubs, you know, little 5-gallon buckets for them to smoke. And We tried not to burn the building down, and we actually showcased in that building for record companies. Like 4 or 5 record A&R people came in there and watched us one night, and we built them a VIP area. There was some offices in the front of the building, and it had stairs with a overlook onto the thing. And so we put our board up there to make sure nobody ever spilt anything on it. And so we went up there and built a bar, and we put them in a VIP area. We got them there before we opened the doors, before anybody got there.
Wow.
And they just watched organically what happened. And it was so crazy, man. It was hilarious. People were dragging chairs and coolers and drinking and smoking, and people were throwing up and going. I mean, it was like out of a movie, man. It was hilarious.
Wow. So you guys you guys hustled, huh? Wow.
We just enjoyed ourselves, and it was a place, like I was telling you before, there weren't a lot of places for you to go underage and see music, so we kind of provided that place. We didn't do a lot of them because we tried not to get the police to show up. We were always kind of weary. The warehouse was right next door to our Coliseum where all the concerts happened, so a lot of times we'd throw a party the night of the concert. People would go in and see the show, and then they'd come back, and some of the overflow parking was in our parking lot, and we would open the bay door of that warehouse and start playing, and people would just start filing in, man. I mean, it would just get packed in that place.
Wow.
It was crazy. They'd sit on their cars outside. They ordered pizzas. They threw Frisbees. I mean, it was just, the whole parking lot was hanging out partying. And then when the party was over, we would have to go out and clean the parking lot up. We would take one of those 55-gallon drums, put it in the back of a pickup, and we'd have to pick up all the beer bottles and pizza things, because 18-wheelers would start rolling in there to the other bay doors, the other offices that were in there. So we'd have to have it cleaned up before they came at, 5 in the morning or whatever.
Wow, what a story, man. What a story.
It was crazy.
Would you say, was it easier for a new band to make it back in 89, 90, a new band, or is it easier nowadays with the internet? What would you say?
Man, they're both challenging. We're in a different world now, man.
Yeah.
The digital realm rushed in, and it gave us direct access to an audience. I mean, you're a brand, you're a global entity, in business immediately, man. As soon as you turn on your social media and your website or whatever those tools are that you want to use to access people, I see all the potential, I guess, nowadays for the young bands. They're not selling physical products like we were back then. That was a different kind of business model, because selling records and all that kind of stuff generated a little bit different royalty rates and stuff than you get off of a streaming platform or something nowadays. But you have more opportunities with different revenue streams than you did. For us, I guess really honestly, I know I'm kind of not answering your question straight on, but
it's okay.
It's just a different approach. Everybody is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's the way we were back in the day. The thing is, you got to have customers. You got to have fans. That's the way that you make it.
Yeah.
So back in the day with us, we had less resources, I guess. We had like MTV and major radio stations, and that was kind of our two platforms that we had. Nowadays, they have all kind of different ways to access their audience. You don't have to get everybody in the world in today's model. You just need a super fan. You need a small group of people that'll follow you around and help support you. Back in our day, you had to sell. We had our street dates and stuff. Like it used to be Tuesdays a long time ago. Your record would come out, and we would try to build a story, behind our band or behind the single, the videos that we had out or whatever. And hopefully we would sell a lot of records on that first day. I think today, the way bands approach it is more about, instead of getting just one big cash out day, they're trying to build longevity. They're trying to have like a long tail on their career where they can grab a small group of people and you just carry them with you for a long time and keep growing that crowd, But both of them are challenging. The thing is, getting a record deal and stuff is actually like when you go to work, or at least in the old business model. Nowadays it's a little bit different. You're kind of in control of all the content, and you kind of select the people that you're going to work with, a la carte, your manager or your PR person, or you can kind of control